everyone, this video is for the color wheel project. There's also a separate full color mixing video which I highly recommend that you watch and mix along with so you know how to mix all of these different colors for the color wheel. To get started, you need one of your toned canvases, so you should already have some toned canvases ready from the Value Scales project when you toned a few canvases. This is one of your canvas pads that is taped down on a piece of cardboard. And then you'll also want a small or kind of small medium-sized bowl, like about this size, okay? And a piece of your vine charcoal. So you will be tracing out the circle for your color wheel using a bowl or a big lid, something like that. You'll be drawing out the outlines in vine charcoal, and the vine charcoal will just kind of integrate into your paint. So you want to use the vine charcoal, not pencil, because that will rise through the paint layers. Okay, and then I was using my two flat brushes to paint my color wheel. I like the flat brushes for this because you can get that nice hard edge. You can use the small flat brush to kind of outline things for more of a kind of detail work, especially when you're getting into these really skinny sections. And then the large flat brush to put in those big planes of color. I like these for this project because they're good for getting those hard edges, though you can use whatever paintbrush you want to use. You'll also want to make sure that you have some of your paper towels out to be cleaning your brushes frequently, and you'll be mixing out your paint using your palette knife. Alright, so next up is the first demo part of the video.
Premix all of your colors for your color wheel, beginning with the following primaries: cadmium yellow, a combination of cadmium red and alizarin crimson for your red, and ultramarine blue. Watch the full-length mixing demo to learn how to mix out these colors strategically.
Okay, I'm going to draw out my color wheel. I have a little medium-sized bowl that I'm going to use to trace out a circle for my wheel. I'm drawing with my vine charcoal. I'm using my vine charcoal because it will easily integrate into my paint. Unlike pencil will rise through paint layers. Vine charcoal is not going to show up at all once you cover it. So I'm just tracing my circle. Now, if your color wheel isn't super neat, that's okay. The focus here is color relationships. You want to try to get it neat, but if it's not, don't worry about it too much. Okay, so try to get the kind of center of your circle. I think that's about center. Now I'm going to start by mapping out my primary colors. So I'll do, we have 3 primaries that we're working with. So I'll do a big triangle going up. It's going to go out like that. Just erase that a little bit. Okay, and then triangles coming out. So one triangle coming out. Trying to get it fairly even. Mine is probably not going to be super even, so you really don't need to worry about it. Alright, so another little triangle coming out, and then another triangle coming out this way. So these will be the triangles for our 3 primaries. You want to try to get these fairly even to each other, because within these little slices of pie of our color wheel, the secondary colors are going to go and the tertiary colors. Okay, and again, the vine charcoal is just going to integrate into your paint, so if you're looking at that and getting anxious, don't, it'll be fine. Okay, so those will be my primary colors, so I'm having those be the biggest and kind of come out from my circle. Next, you can think of your secondary colors. Those are going to be in the middle of these little sections. So I'll map in another triangle in the middle of this bigger triangle. So I'm doing another triangle in there. Okay, that'll be a secondary. Another triangle in here. will be another secondary, and then one last one in here. Okay, that will be one last secondary color. So, and let me give myself little notes for where my different colors are going to go. So I will make this yellow, so I'll give myself a Y for that. I'm going to make this one red, red, yellow, blue. Okay, and then I know between yellow and blue is going to be green. That will make this green, yellow right here. In between green and blue is going to be blue, green. Okay. In between red and blue is going to be purple, so I'll just do a P for that. Okay. And then a red purple or red violet, and then a blue purple or blue violet. Okay. In between red and yellow is going to be orange, and then between the red and the orange is red orange. Between orange and yellow is yellow orange. Okay, now I have mapped out a basic traditional color wheel. I know where everything's going. I'm doing it in the Vine charcoal, which is very easy to erase. I can even just kind of rub it off with my finger, and it's going to integrate into my paint easily. I've also put a black line right here. I've done this black line in Sharpie. You could also paint the black line. You'll just need it to be dry before you get to this part. On this black line, we will be doing a transparency and opacity test. So we'll be testing the colors that are on your wheel on this line, and we'll be able to see which of the colors is transparent and which is more opaque. By the colors that cover the line will be more opaque. The colors where you can see the line coming through will be more transparent. So now we're set up and ready to paint, and the time lapse of the color wheel being painted in will begin now.
I'm using my small flat brush and large flat brush to paint in my color wheel. The flat brushes are great for hard edges. As you paint in your colors, remember to also put a swatch of each color on the transparency and opacity test line, the black line to the side. The black transparency line must be dry before you paint any other colors on top.
Okay, let's talk about our color wheel a little bit more in depth. So we have our color wheel here. We can see there's these different gradations of color, kind of how they relate to each other. So we have our primaries here, our secondaries, and our intermediate colors. The color wheel is really useful. We're going to be using it and kind of referring to it quite a bit as we move forward in class. It can help us decide how to establish the color palette for our paintings. So if we're painting a figure, for example, we think of one of our Van Gogh portraits that we've looked at. If we're painting a figure that has this orange beard, we want that figure to stand out. We can go to the complement of orange. So if we look at our color wheel and go to orange, the opposite of orange, or the complementary color to orange, is blue. Okay, so we can make those different connections and think of those relationships. The complementary colors are going to be a big thing for us to consider, and we can incorporate that into the color palette for our paintings. Understanding the complementary colors is also going to give us this knowledge about how to mix neutrals. Neutrals are colors like brown, gray, chromatic blacks, so they don't feel intensely chromatic or bright. They're kind of the opposite of chromatic or bright. They're neutral. They're kind of in the middle. And we're going to need to know how to mix different neutrals for all different parts of our paintings. If we combine complementary colors together, so orange and blue, red and green, purple and yellow, those are going to give us neutrals. And we can use neutrals for all different types of things. That's going to be kind of the next project we go into, is mixing out neutrals and value strains for neutrals. We've also done our transparency and opacity test over here, and this is giving us some really great knowledge about these different pigments that we have on our color palette. So we can see, for example, that the pure ultramarine blue is very transparent. I can see that black line very clearly. I've also done a note of the alizarin crimson, which is very transparent as well. That black line is coming through really clearly. The yellow, though, does a pretty good job of covering that black line, so that tells us that it's more opaque. And the yellow, it's been added into many other colors, right? So all of these greens and the oranges, and that cadmium yellow is going to push those other mixtures more opaque too. The oranges in particular have both cadmium yellow and cadmium red in them, and that's going to make them quite opaque, and we can see that they're kind of covering that black line much more than the blue or the red, for example. And if you layered more of these colors on, it would become more and more opaque. Whereas if you were layering, I mean, eventually the ultramarine blue would be turning opaque, but it's a very transparent color, so you can kind of see through it. And if you're establishing many thin layers of that, you're still going to be able to see through it. So there's some insights into our color wheel. We'll be referring back to this really frequently as we move forward with color, and understanding how colors relate to each other is also going to help us to understand how to mix out different values for the various colors that we want to mix.